Grandmaster Gambardella here with another of the 15 things I learned from Manny Pacquiao. And number 7 is confidence is created by proper training. Everyone knows the importance of training, but most people don't train properly. Please let me explain. The average martial arts student or boxer goes to classes 2 times a week for 1 hour. Sometimes they might even go 3 times a week. During a typical class, they might spend 10 minutes warming up, 20 minutes doing basic stances, blocks, kicks, punching, sparring, counters and stuff, 15 minutes of actual techniques, and 10 to 15 minutes of actual sparring or fighting in the class or the boxing ring. Now these times may vary by teachers and students, but it's about an hour, hour and a half the longest, and it's typical. And it's actually very effective at making most students better, to a point. Please let me explain. I mentioned before that when my son Teddy Gambardella was training for his wrestling team, he trained 5 to 6 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day, 250 days of the year. His high school team won 4 state championships, and he went to state 4 years in a row, one of the few people to ever do it. When he went to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado, when I went to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado and did a seminar on injury prevention way back in 1980, the wrestlers there trained 4 to 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, 360 days a year. They won several gold medals and had a lot of wrestlers who won world championships. My friend Brandon Slay was an Olympic gold medalist and is now the new coach of the U.S. Olympic wrestling team. And he intends to go back to the vigorous training schedule for the team after some rather disappointing recent Olympics. And a friend of mine and a great martial arts teacher and an Olympic diving coach, Grandmaster Brian Robbins of SMU, trained his diving team 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, 5 to 6 days a week, 300 days of the year, or whatever the school year was, and that included summer school. And he produced Olympic champions. Another friend of mine is the only person to ever be a world boxing champion and a world kickboxing champion, the great Troy Dorsey. He trained 4 to 6 hours a day, 360 days a year, to get ready for his world championship fights. Master Gracie, when growing up, spent 8 or more hours a day in the gym, training 4 to 6 hours a day on the mat. And Manny Pacquiao has been fighting since he was 14 years old, 2 to 4 hours a day when he was growing up, for 10, 15 years. All of these great champions and great teachers train hard and train long. They also train properly. And by that I mean they are trained with techniques that work in situations that they would actually have in a real fight, in a real boxing competition. So many schools spend their 1 hour with their students in techniques that have no practical value in the real world or in the street. Their students would get beaten in a street fight and usually get beaten in tournaments they go to. Why? Because their training was not proper. Proper training involves intensive training. Proper training involves intensive workouts. Proper training involves intensive real-world scenarios. Proper training involves working harder than you ever have and pushing yourself to the limits on a daily basis. Manny Pacquiao works out properly. He trains hard every day. He doesn't play. When you train properly, you get confidence. You know you won't get tired in a short fight, and you won't get tired in a long fight. You know you'll be in better condition than your opponent. You know when you train properly, you will know what to do in 90% of all situations. Manny Pacquiao knew he could go 12 rounds against Clottey, and he was prepared to do it. There were no surprises. You will know all the techniques you need to know to stay out of trouble and to take control of the fight. Manny Pacquiao probably knows 1,000,000 techniques. And while that might be an exaggeration of the actual number, what he does know is 1,000,000 times more than the average boxer. And his proper training has taught him hundreds of boxing techniques for every possible scenario that might come up in a real boxing match. There will be no surprises for Manny Pacquiao in the ring or in a street fight. He has been there and done that, seen that and overcome that. And his proper training has given him the confidence that is justified. He knows he can do it in the ring because he has done it thousands of times in class under realistic fighting conditions. So all you aspiring fighters and boxers out there, train properly. Proper training in the martial arts, proper training in the boxing will produce the same confidence in you. I don't believe you can become a great martial artist or a great boxer if you only train 1 hour a day, 2 or 3 times a week. You have to work harder than that if you want to be great in anything. You have to practice at home. You have to do it 2 classes a day or help another class. You have to get real training and a real partner and practice after and before and during the class. You have to go to other schools and practice with other teachers. You have to buy, rent, or watch online training videos and from other great teachers and practice the techniques and moves they're teaching you. You have to have a library of books and videos at home for you to study on a daily basis. You have to keep a record of your training and what you've learned and write it down and video it for the future reference. Remember, in my last article where I talked about Pat Burleson, who said, "I've forgotten more than most people will ever learn." Well, that's true. Grandmaster Burleson did not have the use of video cameras to record all his training and classes on a daily basis. You do. You can record all of your workouts. You can record your lessons. You can record what you've learned in your lessons. And you can keep a track of them on your computer. If you can't record them, you can take notes. You can take photos of your techniques. You can learn and remember it. Write it down and keep them in a file. You can make something happen to yourself. I record everything. I write down everything. I've written 40 books. I've produced over 300 videos. Manny Pacquiao didn't just get to be great by having haphazard things happen in his life. He's an organized, trained, and confident man. And if you'll want to be confident, you son of a bitch. This is Grandmaster Gambardella. I'll see you next time with another tip. This is Grandmaster Gambardella, and I'll see you next time with another of the 15 things I learned from Manny Pacquiao.